went on.
Costa Mesa Sanitary District on August 22nd. Please join me in saluting the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. Bob, do your thing, will you?
Okay. God grant, okay, please pray with me. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Amen. Very good.
That's what he did last month.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President Robert Wooten.
Here.
President James Fairman.
Present. Do we have any late communications?
Yes, we do, Mr. President. We this afternoon I received some comments from Mr. Mosier, which you have a copy of those comments along with my response.
Any questions of Scott's response to this?
Yeah, Jim, I do. Your response to him on E4 about the Lions Club,
Yes.
It was well done. I mean, he obviously didn't understand that it's a nonprofit and that we support a lot of nonprofit. Do you think he understands that now? Hopefully, good answer. Okay.
Plus, we want to get our generators worked occasionally, because we don't work them that often.
That's a good point.
Well, we do exercise them on a monthly basis.
I know, but this is another exercise.
Yes, definitely.
That's really good.
Any other questions? Okay, move along to ceremonial matters and presentations. We don't have any.
None,
tonight.
Mr. President, no.
Public comments. I don't have a card,
There's nobody here.
and I don't see any public, so I guess we're going to pass on that.
Can I interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second? Can I go back to those comments about Mosier's considering approval of contributions applications for Costa Mesa Newport Harbor Fish Fry? I think you made, are these his comments? And then
Those are
you
his comments,
responded
yes.
to them?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass it on. I haven't read them yet, so I'll
Okay.
come back to it.
Yeah, we're no public, so we're passing on that. Consent calendar.
I'll move the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm trying to set the land speed record here tonight because of one of our illustrious trustees.
The good looking
He's got places to go.
No, Mike doesn't have a meeting after tonight. He said good looking ones.
What's that?
I thought he was referring to you.
Well, I mean, all they have to do is look up here, and the public can decide that.
That's why there's no public.
I know it.
Okay, public hearings, general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Board of Directors. Item number 1 is the Citizens Advisory Committee, July 17, 2019 meeting overview. This is a standard report we present to the board, giving the board an overview of the items that were discussed at the last CAC meeting, and also any action taken by the CAC. So just no action needed for tonight. This is just for your FYI.
I have a comment on the number 8. Sue Lester has made a number of different comments. Is there any further detail you want to talk about that, or because she wants us to consider approving funding to perform a cart size analysis? Did you talk to her about that and why we didn't?
No, I think she was just trying to clarify for, there was a CCA member, I forget the name. Yes, Judy Gilo. She was still making that case for having the variable rates, and Sue just wanted to remind her that was discussed, and it was on a 5-4 vote to recommend to the board the flat rate.
Okay, because it seemed, as I was reading it, that she thought it should be reconsidered because it only failed by one vote.
No. She was just trying to clarify for one CC member that it was discussed. It was a close vote, but it was a majority vote for the flat rate.
Okay, then she also talked about she wants the board to reconsider the CPI increase for CR&R. So
Yes.
what was their attitude about that?
She wasn't happy with the board for approving a CPI for CR&R, and basically she just wanted the board to reconsider.
No, she misunderstood, and you wanted more details, and staff gave her the additional details. Doesn't mean she was happy with it. It was just it was a question.
It's negative to me to hear these things see these things in writing. I wasn't there, and I just wanted to get more structure to it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there.
Are you there too?
Arlene?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do they have guidelines that they should be following? And maybe, thinking that they can overstep it into something else because they get so excited over something we're doing. Policies, guidelines, I don't know
Well,
what.
it was resolved by a vote, so I don't know what other remedy.
By appointing this committee, we've given them liberty to do
Yeah.
this criticism. We've never told them not to criticize it. I just, again, to reaffirm, I think all the members know that we're the ones making the decision, and they're not going to always be able to agree. So some of them are going to be a little more vocal, than.
I just wanted to bring that up for everybody's attention.
Well, I know, especially with Sue, I remember early on she had wanted us to consider the variable rate because her mother,
Yes.
there was a situation with her mother, I believe. So that's just her thing to bring up.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the CPI increase. She wants us to reconsider our decision,
How do you go back on a contractual decision we've already made?
Done.
There's no
Yeah,
way.
It's done.
Okay, that was my comments.
Anything else? Item 2?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to consider a contribution program application for Newport Mesa School Foundation's State of the School Breakfast, and Gina Terriano will be giving this report.
Okay, good evening, members of the board. Before you is a contribution request from the Newport Mesa Schools Foundation for their annual State of the Schools Breakfast on October 2nd at Estancia High School. The request is a monetary contribution of $1,000 to be a breakfast partner sponsor, which the district has done for the past 2 years. This sponsorship level includes 4 tickets to the breakfast, the district logo in the event program and in the welcome announcement, VIP parking, a teacher's grant in the district's name, and the opportunity to provide 250 goodie bag items with an accompanying promotional message. If the contribution is approved, district staff is suggesting that the promotional message encourage participation in the battery recycling program for the safe disposal of household batteries, or the use of pharmaceuticals, our pharmaceuticals drop box for the safe disposal of medications. By promoting participation in either of these programs, the board can make a finding that this contribution would advance the district's purposes of recycling and source reduction. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question. Did we pay the $1,000 last year?
We did last year, yes.
Did we get a grant named in
Wow.
our
I believe we did, but I can follow up to confirm.
Do they ask any other group to give some money?
Oh,
I
I'm sure they did.
believe so.
There were a lot. I think last year, Jim and I, you and I, Jim, and Nolani and Gina, we were it was at Corona Del Mar
Yes.
with parking that was unbelievable.
Did you get
But
a special parking there?
Well, the valet parking for
it just, as we were leaving the breakfast, it was
I know.
student drop-off time.
I know. I'm there all the time.
They drive a lot better cars in Corona Del Mar than they did at Estancia, that's for sure.
Is the amount of $1,000 what we gave last time?
It is, yes. The past 2 years.
I move approval.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approving application for the Costa Mesa Newport Harbor fish fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gina will be giving this report.
Thank you. Item 3 is another contribution request from the Costa Mesa Newport Harbor Fish, or for the Newport Harbor Fish Fry, for the use of 4 district generators at the event, which is going to take place on September 20th through 22nd. The district has made its generators available for this event for the past several years, and the district would receive a community booth at the event in exchange for the use of the generators. The booth can be used to allow district staff to engage with customers, share information about its special programs, which include organics recycling, large item collection, door-to-door household hazardous waste collection, our various drop boxes, fog recycling, and also our sewer inspection rebate program. We can also provide a recycling activity, and we can promote our upcoming open house event that's going to be in October. By doing this, the board can make a finding that the contribution would advance the district's statutory purposes of recycling, source reduction, and prevention of sanitary sewer overflows. Happy to answer any questions on that
Any
report.
questions? Yes. Art? Okay. Last year, did you have a booth Friday?
We did not on the Friday.
It was open on Friday?
Yes.
So you have it Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
just
one
like-
available to them. If there's-
No, it's there, but I was, because I think we put somebody else in there on Friday on an emergency deal. Then we had to
Okay.
come up with another. I was curious if that happens again, that you guys aren't going to use it on Friday.
We were not planning to use it on Friday. Typically we have a booth from the opening time till about 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mm.
Any other questions?
Well, I think the purpose of this was to allow the community to use them and also to get some runtime on them, make sure that it runs. So I would move approval.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, consider approving agreement with City of Newport Beach for collecting sewer flow from certain city of Newport Beach properties.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. President. So back on February 12th, staff presented to the board information regarding some certain properties that are located in the city of Newport Beach, but outside of our boundaries. And so they're not within our service area technically, so we don't assess their properties. However, they do flow into our system. Their wastewater flows in our system. So for, I think it was 57 years, the city and the district had an agreement where they would, the city would pay the district a capacity fee, which is basically equivalent to what our current rates are with our residents. I'm pleased to inform you that after some lengthy negotiations, the district attorney, myself, along with their deputy city attorney and utilities directors, we drafted a final agreement that's now a 10-year agreement that has all those properties that are servicing or are flowing into our system will be, the city will pay us a capacity fee. The agreement was unanimously approved by the city of Newport Beach City Council last week, and it was presented to the CAC a month ago or 2 months ago, and they recommended the board to approve an agreement as well. So this is an action item. So attached for you is for your consideration is the agreement for approval.
Questions?
It's a quick question. Go ahead.
I have one. None of these properties are included on the west side that we were talking about at the study session. Is that correct? I mean, looking at none of the, you remember what we were talking about on Tuesday of last week about some of the flows that from.
Oh yes, correct. No, none of those are in there because those properties are now responsible of the city. So, Rob, remember that conversation?
Yes. With the west side properties, because so none of these addresses are part of it.
These are all these.
Legally clarified.
So there could be some other ones on the west side.
Well,
Yeah, but this agreement was just in the Back Bay area.
I know it should be for all of them if it's going to be an agreement. for
Okay,
10
yeah.
years, if there are any. That was all I brought up.
No, it's the properties that are on this agreement. It was the ones that we've been receiving capacity fees for at least 20 years.
Okay.
So
There was just no
Just a
agreement.
question.
yeah, that'll probably be addressed at a point in time when Newport Beach wakes up and looks at the ads there.
Yeah.
We have a lot of properties that are in Newport Beach and we're collecting,
I think we're okay.
I think it looks good.
Mike, did you have something?
I don't have it in front of me, but in the future, could these residents band together and say to us or Newport Beach, hey, we don't want to be part of Costa Mesa Sanitary District. We want to. They would have to reconfigure their sewers, and they'd have to do some capital work to do that, wouldn't they?
That's correct. They'd have to put in a pump station and pump their.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of what I was. I mean, why would they do that? I guess because they're not going to pay any less necessarily.
Our fees are less than the City of Newport Beach's fees
Oh,
anyway.
then they'd
so,
be crazy
yeah.
to ask for that. Okay. I just, we have a 10-year agreement with City of Newport Beach. If the residents had an uprising and wanted,
Keep in mind, our plan is to come back in the future to annex those properties into our service area.
yeah,
So
I
then they will be
remember you saying
assessed.
that.
So that's the next step. We're planning to do that in the fall.
Okay.
Just to echo what Scott said, they're not part of the district at this
Right.
point, so it's just an arrangement between Newport Beach and ourselves.
Right. Okay.
Newport Beach is gonna pay us for providing the service.
Which they should.
The annexation could readily fail.
If the residents,
You mean
Yes.
the one that we put out in the fall?
Well, the ones
Our
that are
annexation.
being annexed, all it takes is a majority vote.
yeah.
Does Newport know that we're planning on doing that?
Yes, yes.
Are they in favor of that?
Yes, they're in favor. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds good.
They're not being annexed into the city of Costa Mesa, they're
Just the
being
doorstep.
annexed into.
In the district.
Into the Costa
District
Mesa
boundaries,
Sanitary
correct.
District.
If we were trying to annex them into the city,
Right.
Yeah,
there
wouldn't-
probably would
They
be.
probably would balk at that.
Yeah.
I would if I lived over there.
Any further discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adopt ordinance 129, amending the operations code to provide a new day and time for the monthly regular meetings.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was discussed on your July 25th board meeting. The board directed us to bring this back for adoption consideration, and that was to change the meeting date and time from the fourth Thursday at 5:30 p.m. to the fourth Monday at 4:30 p.m. This ordinance will do that if you approve it. However, I do want to remind the board and members of the public that if you adopt this ordinance, it will not go into effect until our January meeting, because as we informed you in the past, if you adopted it right now, for one, the October meeting is already set for October 29th. That's because I'm going to be out of town. Then the fourth Monday in November and December is on the week of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
And so our suggestion, the board agreed, let's start in January. And so the board was okay with that. And so that's what the ordinance does reflect, that if you adopt it, it'll start in January, the new meeting date and time.
I have a question. When is the?
Just add one clarification.
Sure.
If the ordinance actually will go into effect, it's a question of the dates will not change for the meeting until that date, so.
Correct.
And I only bring that up because Mr. Moses made a big deal about
Has he?
those nuances. So the ordinance will go into effect, so the regular meeting date won't change until January.
Yeah, which is okay to do. I mean,
Well, I was just thinking, when is our next newsletter going out? Do you know that, Gina? Because we should,
Be going out early December.
because we should post this information for the
Oh, yeah.
citizens, you know,
Yeah,
as
that-
much
yeah.
as we can. Even at the fish fry and other areas, maybe have a flyer that let them know.
We could put it on our website
Either
as soon as it's effective.
Okay, that was my question.
I'll move adoption then of ordinance 129, amending the operations code for a new date and time for our regular monthly meetings.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approving the Special District Risk Management Authority, SDRMA, health benefits amended memorandum of understanding, that's easy for you to say. Resolution number 2019-923.
Thank you, Mr. President. Diana Bodorski will be giving this report.
Good evening, board members. As you know, SDRMA provides coverage for district employees for district health benefits program that includes plans for dental, vision, employee assistance program, basic life AD&D, supplemental life, and long-term disability. The SDRMA Board of Directors at their June 26th board meeting approved amendments to the MOU between the district and SDRMA. These amendments were made to align the MOU with IRS guidelines, the Affordable Care Act, the CSAC EIA pool guidelines, and let's see, in July 2009, the district executed our original MOU with SDRMA and resolution. And included in that original MOU was language giving SDRMA Board of Directors the authority to make amendments subject to the approval of the district's designated representative or alternate who has authority to execute the memorandum. Keep in mind, any entity that fails or refuses to execute the amendment to the MOU and resolution shall be deemed by SDRMA to have withdrawn from the program on the next annual renewal date. So staff is recommending that the Board of Directors consider approving and executing the SDRMA Health Benefits Amended Memorandum of Understanding and Resolution number 2019-923.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Make any comments?
No, we actually talked about it at our board meeting yesterday, and I think it's important to note what Diana just said about if you don't accept the memorandum, I mean, the agreement is, the MOU is the agreement. If we don't ratify it, then we're going to be looking for health benefits and other things for the employees, and I'm sure they don't want us to do that.
I move for approval.
Did you just make a motion? I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick, do we have any employees, I think I know the answer. I think you're going to say no, but we don't have any employees that are reaching age 65, are we? Do we have anybody that's even close other than Scott?
We do not, but
that was one of the big discussions that came up yesterday. Was there's a different plan for people who are 65. CSAC, who Diana mentioned, and in Alliant, who does our underwriting for this thing, requires you go on Medicare and get a supplement, and it didn't fly well with me what that agreement is.
I think we have time, but if we did have any, I don't think I could tell you anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't tell me. The other thing that was interesting in our discussion yesterday was, CalPERS offers a program, and we compared the rates with CalPERS and what SDRMA offers. CalPERS is really expensive. So sticking with SDRMA, I think, has been a good decision. It's very you guys use it, I think it's a pretty comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Bob?
I had a question. I thought when I looked over the warrants that we had already paid SDRMA for this program. That's probably not true.
We are currently we currently get our benefits from SDRMA for the health, dental, and the other ones that I mentioned. Yes,
I think that, but I thought I saw a payment for it on there. This is for the future agreement, or?
Yes. Well, we do pay month to month.
Oh, month to month.
Yes.
Okay.
This is just to continue the agreement.
Yes. Okay. Well, it was a pretty substantial payment, but anyway.
Arlene, did you have a question?
No, it wasn't a question. I just want to remind you that if you're going to the conference, are you
I'm
listening?
going to look now.
Sorry, go ahead, Arlene. Hey, you.
Yeah, those two there talking. Okay, if you're going to the conference in Anaheim, be sure you get some, tell SDRMA for the breakfast. We get points for that. If any time that we go to anything that's SDRMA, like workshops or anything, it gives us some points.
Which get applied to those premium credit incentive points.
I was throwing that in, that's all.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion?
Why we're talking about Arlene's topic, are you going to send us some information about the conference next month?
If not, I'd entertain a motion.
We did.
You did.
You did?
Yeah, we just need a vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Engineers report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and board members. Project status report. We currently have 8 projects in various stages. Design through construction, and everything is working out well. Just a quick highlight reel. The Canyon force main went in easily by directional drilling. The city's real happy because we don't need to completely close the Canyon-Wilson intersection, so that project's doing very well. In this, they're having to deal with the abandoned pool, so they had to cut through the sidewalls and had a little trench kind of caving in, so that'll be a little extra work.
Can you say that again? Repeat that again, Rob.
There was an old pool that had been filled full of dirt, and on top of it, they filled it with trail mix or whatever you call it, and it's a play park. So we had to excavate through the sidewalls of the pool.
Oh.
So we went through one sidewall, and then we went through the other sidewall. The first sidewall that we went through, kind of dirt went into the trench. So it's not a perfect rectangular trench. It kind of goes from the bottom, it goes up a little bit, and then it looks like that. So rather than fill all that with expensive material, we are going to use some dirt and use that for compaction and some rock and keep the cost down. So we're in good shape there.
Where was the pool located in?
The pool is located, happened to be right behind the number 4 building, which was the one with our sewer. So when we were relocating from next to the building over into their park, that's where the pool was. So what's really nice is that when you come into the job and you're in the front part of the apartment complex, you can't even hear construction behind building 4. Plus it's under the flight path, so they get a lot of noise there.
Yeah.
And then real quickly, on the Acapulco sewer siphon, there's still one more night of work to be done. And because Acapulco had to clean their lateral and they pushed all this grease down in our siphon, we're waiting for Joel to return from vacation so he can drive our brand new truck and vacuum out the grease out of the siphon. Then the contractor will do his last bit of work, and we'll call that emergency over. So that's working out well. On the master plan, we finally got the information from the field crews, Steve's boys, Jesse, and who's a great guy. He works so hard. And now we'll be able to have a meeting, and now we're free of outside forces, except for putting our flow meters in. So I'll finally be able to make a schedule after we have our next meeting. And on President Pump Station, where we're trying to reuse the existing vault, so far good news. And the structural analysis is not complete, but there's a lot of steel in those old walls. So I'm thinking very positively that we can go to option 2 and get the cost down to 1.5 million rather than 2.2 where it is right now. So that's looking very good. And there are other, okay, so Canyon and Indus are under construction. Manhole rehab, reconstruction meeting in 2 weeks. And busy and doing well. And by the way, the inspector that I hired, who's working the projects, he's a gold mine, meaning he's had so much experience that he knows better than the contractors what equipment they should have out there rather than what they have out there. So that's a large depth of knowledge, and he's great. So he and I confer a lot, and we're keeping Bow in the loop. He's got a standing, open invitation to come out to jobs. Plus, we call him when a job hits a specialty or a critical, a section is critical for construction. We give him invitations for him to come out in the field, and he does that. So I think he's getting a wonderful education, particularly because he has our really knowledgeable senior inspector plus me. So we're really giving him a tune-up for everything that he can absorb. So I think things are going great.
Thank you. Bob, you had a question?
Well, you reported that in June that you were thinking about revising the force main evaluation project to the sewer siphon evaluation.
Yes, and that's what we're doing. Because we had caught up on the force mains, and after seeing this emergency that we had at the Acapulco siphon, the board did approve a transfer of funds and to proceed on the siphon evaluation program, and that's in design, and we're getting our information together to go out to bid soon. So it's moving right along.
It would be my, without further explanation and maybe study session item to evaluate that. I am not necessarily. Well, I would like to see the force main evaluation continue, even if we have to make a separate project. It's a $40,000 project, and I would like to see the data that staff and the engineer use to determine that we should do these force mains. I mean, because we're doing a number of them.
Yes.
And I think it's important, to bring that forward.
Comment. And just to clarify that, force mains we're working on right now are the ones that we would have abandoned had that project, Westside Abandonment, gone through. So some of them are old.
Yeah.
And 2 of them have asbestos. So we are not canceling the force main analysis project. It's still there. I had mentioned to Scott that the reason we're doing an evaluation is after I mentioned to Scott that we caught up. We got to a point where all the force mains were in great shape, young enough not to need repairs or replacement, and that's when Scott suggested we do an evaluation program instead. So we're confident that we're not going backwards or creating a risk because we're already replacing the 6 force mains that were part of the abandonment program. And the rest of them, there's no need for that just based on age. So as critical as that is, we're not taking our eyes off it. We're just delaying it a little bit because the siphon evaluation, we're spending close to $450,000 in repairs on that siphon because of ductile iron pipe subject to corrosion. Well, only one of our siphons does not have ductile iron pipe. So, and because the field crews have trouble cleaning the siphons. That's why we're doing this evaluation, so that we don't have another $450,000 extra work. So that's why the focus is temporarily away from force mains and on siphons, because they never got TV, because that's a specialty, trying to TV a line that's full, and we have force mains under control. So it's best to look at what our problems are first. So in essence, we're not causing ourselves additional risk by pushing the program, the evaluation program for force mains, back a year.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, unless I'd read this, I wouldn't have known that the staff had switched the monies that were budgeted for force main evaluation to what is a needed project.
Well, I do believe it was brought out. When we did the staff report, every staff report goes through finance, and the funding method is made clear so that we're not approving a project that we don't have money for. So it may not have been brought out in intimate detail, but it did show what we were doing to move the money. So that should be in the siphon report, staff report, and these issues I've spoken about, how good shape
Okay,
our force
okay,
mains are
I give up.
at staff report.
I give up.
Okay, he's given up, so let's go forward.
Just a quick question. When the city does our manholes, are they using concrete instead of the blacktop?
No,
So
they evaluated it and then they said no.
wouldn't we be paying for that if we asked them to do it, or would they be?
We pay either way.
That's what I mean.
You can ask again.
Because I saw, March 7 in 17, that you asked that question. They were considering it, and then I haven't read anything past that, so they're not doing it.
Correct, because the city won't approve it.
They just redid California. They just repaved California Street, and every single manhole was done with asphalt.
Right.
And it's a smooth drive, but
Was one of those manholes close to T-Winkle?
no. They were from Iowa Street to about Nebraska, maybe Colorado. I mean, it was quite a ways, but nothing near T-Winkle.
Dan Worthington came by my house a month or so ago, and he said, hey, you should tell them about the manhole close to T-Winkle.
Really?
So,
Well, he also he'd come to me about a manhole on Baker Street, right up near my office.
He was
And
mistaken.
and Bob cleared him up.
okay.
It's a storm drain manhole that needs
Okay.
needs
If
the
there's
collar repaired.
If you find a deficient manhole, please advise Scott and myself, because we're taking them on a case-by-case basis
No,
now.
I would have done that.
Yes,
It's
as
a
you
storm
have
drain
in the
manhole.
past,
Yeah.
and we appreciate that.
I saw him again today and told him a second time, but
Does the city do the storm drain manholes? Not for us, but for
I
themselves?
told the city
Okay.
a long time ago about this opportunity.
Okay, so the manhole that we're speaking of, Director Schaefer, is a storm drain manhole? Is that what you're clarifying?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it is.
got it. So
The
not
part-
ours.
Part of the asphalt's missing around.
Right.
Bob had promised Mr. Worthington he would take care of it, and then he found out it was a storm drain one. So
Well, I'm sure Director Uten informed the city.
I did,
Right, so
a year ago.
he took care of it as best he could.
yeah, which he normally does.
Okay, that answered my question.
Okay, receive and file the engineer's report.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report.
No items this evening, Mr. President.
Any questions of Mark?
About the interest rate for our items in trust, are they going down also?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Our portfolio, or is the interest rate going down on those, or?
Slightly, yes. Slower than, it's going down slower than LAIF and the rest of the market, just because we're out a little bit longer. But yeah, it is going down just like everything else.
Okay.
Until the recession hits, then they'll really go
It's
down.
not gonna hit. Okay, let's move along to attorney's reports. Alan?
Thanks, Mr. President. I have nothing scheduled, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the significant new inverse condemnation case that came down and that you all received a copy of my memo on.
Yeah.
That was the Oroville versus Superior Court of Butte County. And it's really a significant case. I mean, in the old days, up until this case, the old days, if there was a sewer spill and it damaged somebody's property, the public agency was automatically liable. And this case says that's not necessarily the right test, but it is appropriate to consider whether there were regulations or requirements for the person who would be the plaintiff, namely the property owner, to have taken steps, reasonable steps, such as having a backflow prevention device. And it acknowledges that roots and blockages happen, and that if those backflow prevention devices were not properly installed and there was a backup in somebody's house or business, that they would not be able to necessarily recover under inverse condemnation, that we would not be just the deep pocket.
Yeah.
And it gets into a lot of social engineering about who should bear the loss and things, and when the district has some, it's just a big loss and the district took some action and the other person didn't take any action, or the district failed to maintain their improvements, that the law and the courts have said it's fair for the public generally to bear that burden, whereas if somebody takes it upon themselves not to do something, that maybe it's fair for them to bear the burden of their failure to maintain. So it's a big case. It's going to be a game changer. It's the Supreme Court, so it's not going to get changed. And we'll just see how it all develops. But it should drive insurance down. It should drive, maybe slightly. But in this case, it was the one of the it was a California JPA that was stood in the shoes of the city, so they must have paid the claim, and then they litigated the case, and they were the prevailing party on it.
Another question, what about if it happens to go into the waters of the state?
I'm sorry?
What happens if the sewers goes into the waters of the state?
Oh, you mean the regional fine and all that?
Right.
Yeah, that's a shoe that hasn't dropped yet.
Yeah, well,
But,
hasn't dropped.
obviously it comes to mind that maybe that
That's what I
rule
thought,
should
yeah.
apply over there too, but
Yeah.
we don't have any rule change over there. And
Okay, this is curious.
but I think we definitely would argue it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Laws change. The Supreme Court may look differently at it.
Yeah, the excess lines carriers and the surplus lines that we use through SDRMA, they're looking at these inverse condemnation cases really, really hard. It could be a big deal. I think I had mentioned to you the towers up in San Francisco, the Leaning Tower. I forget the name of it, but we have an interest in that. SDRMA does on one of the East Bay somebody district. But we were talking yesterday about it. And, this tower has sunk 14 inches and tilted. No, it's sunk 18 inches and it's tilted 14 inches. And these places are all occupied. And they're occupied by some heavyweights. So the homeowners and the builders, the neighbor, everybody's involved in this law. We're looking at, the city of San Francisco told them that in order to fix that building, it will take $90 million just to fix it. And they're not even sure the $90 million will do what they need it to do. So they're talking about a settlement close to $1 billion. Our attorney was telling us this morning that one of the tenants luckily sold his unit. It was Joe Montana. Sold his unit to Mike Pence, who's a former Giant outfielder, now plays for the Texas Rangers. And I mean, he gave us some other name. I hate to name drop it. The tenants in this place, and of course they're all now suing the builder, and ultimately part of it to us and our reinsurer. But that whole inverse and that's what a lot of this is. And he was telling us they have 6 arbitrators looking at this case. A panel of 6 arbitrators. That'll be a tough decision.
Should be an odd number, it should be 5.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking. Why is there 6?
It could be 3 to 3.
I wish I'd have bought one of
Alan,
those.
thank you for digging that up. That
It was
is
good.
very important information. So,
Mr. President, just before you move on, can we assume on the items in which you approved the funding for the various groups that you made those findings that it was in the district's interest and it was a part of our statutory purpose? So we'll prepare the minutes that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
thank you. Okay, let's move along. Local meetings. Orange County Sand District has their meeting tomorrow night, so I can't report on that. Santa Ana River Flood Control Agency, they didn't have a meeting. I personally met with the director on a couple issues, but it was irrelevant to this. Independent Special Districts, ISDOC.
Okay. This is all on July, nothing on August, yet. But anyway, in July, the meeting was just one that everybody was talking about who's going to get what and election warrants and so forth. So it was a calm meeting, because I liked everybody. So at that meeting.
Well, I attended the August meeting.
Yeah.
And of course, it was announced who won the LAFCO election, and the other discussion item had to do with CSDA's annual conference. You talked about, but there was something about scholarships. ISDOC's got a lot of money right now because the dues to OCOG and LAFCO were reduced or something, and there was a little bit of sparring between the chairman and a director from Mesa Water, and it was very unpleasant. But they don't want to give these scholarships out, and so it was kind of a tough
Who do
meeting.
they give the scholarships to? Students?
Yes.
No, not to students, to districts that have very low budgets
Needs.
to help them go to conferences and things. Director Larry Dick from MODOC was very adamant that we shouldn't be collecting money from our members and then paying for some members to go to conferences and things. And
You're just going to keep that money?
Well, on that
they're just going to keep that money for whatever.
And on the scholarship part, I had just read something about our next ISDOC meeting. It's too late to do anything on the scholarships now because the conference is coming up and that's it. So what we're due then, we have to look forward to next year, deciding what they want to do with all their money and if they want to get into scholarships again. So to help out some of these needy districts.
Okay. Of the needy districts in Orange County?
Yeah.
So there are some small districts that have really small budgets. You're looking at some of the beach community districts that have, what are they, Scott? Like Rossmore, not
Capel Beach.
Capel Beach is one.
Community services
And the thing
district.
is,
Yeah.
they need the
Library
workshops.
districts.
They need the workshops for the understanding of the educating them. So,
Yeah.
Okay, California Special Districts,
okay.
we didn't do that, did we?
No, we didn't, but I will do it real quick because in July there was nothing to speak of because we're getting ready for the conference. And all you have to remember is the conference is the 25th of September to the 29th, which is different. It starts on a Wednesday. It's in Anaheim this time. And I'm sure at the next meeting we'll be having something go out. Most of you have gotten the magazine already for Special Districts, so you have that. And this conference is extremely important because we have somebody up, Manager of the Year, and it's kind of exciting. Nobody's talking to anybody on it. We're just kind of waiting to see what happens. But it'll be exciting. And then, of course, like I said, SDRMA always has a breakfast. And when going to that, we get some discount points for that, which is great.
What day is that of the 4 days?
The breakfast would be the 26th, I think.
That's a Thursday.
Maybe Friday.
And
It may be Friday.
Wednesday starts the conference, there's a reception in the evening.
See if I have it.
Isn't there a golf?
Absolutely. On the 25th,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Okay. Well, you didn't say anything, so I thought,
You're doing the report, not me.
I know, but you're involved with the golf. Okay, so 25th, I don't know if you're playing or not.
No, no, I have practice. If it's on a Wednesday, I couldn't attend.
Oh, okay. So, but this is the 50th anniversary, so it's a big one, and they're really going to do a lot of celebrating. And I know as the past president of CSDA, they'll have all of us come up who are past presidents and talk and that kind of thing. So it'll be good if I have a voice. So anyway, it goes to the 29th.
28.
Oh, 28th, pardon me. I'm thinking of when I take my dog in. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. SDRMA?
Just got back from our board meeting. Two big topics were, we had our quarterly investment report, and we use PFM. I don't know if you're familiar with PFM. Lauren Brandt, she's our investment, and she was talking about our investments did about 4 times better than they thought they were going to do. So I don't know what they invested in, but we talked a little bit about some of the factors with Brexit, and I brought up the R word, and they didn't want to talk about the R word, the recession, but we're still in pretty good financial position with SDRMA. And then the other big thing was we did our CEO's I did our CEO's evaluation. It's Laura's first year with the organization, and that took up quite a lot of time. So, good meeting.
Was it positive?
Very positive. We've made some changes at SDRMA that should have been done years ago, and we just weren't aware of what was going on. So, good changes, and I think will benefit all the districts that are part of the pool.
Okay, other meetings qualifying for reimbursement.
Numbers went to Waco, and I want to let everybody know that Paul Schoenberg did a really fine job as the narrator of the 4 other agencies, and he kept the thing moving and question answering, and I came back with a couple of questions for us from what they said that we need to look at. And the first one was, do you think we have ample generators for a major power outage?
Yes. We were covered, yes.
We were covered, okay. Do we have a Twitter account?
Yes, we do. Okay.
Social media, I'm sure we do. No, they know what's going on at the district. Okay. Let's see. Do we have malware protection? Okay. Do we have, okay, here's one. They thought the agency should have their own fuel depot in case there's a long-term gas shortage.
Well, we have a fuel tank, and we do have an agreement with a fuel provider that if there's an emergency, that we get first preference.
Okay.
That's in our EOC. So,
Let's see, about, do we have backup customer data?
Backup customer data?
Like a backup for all our data?
yeah, we back up everything. We back up everything on a daily basis.
Just throwing out the things they
Yeah.
were talking about that some of them don't have. You know?
Some of the districts, it was amazing at what they don't have.
Well, yeah.
How about a backup trash pickup plan? If there's a, like say CNR couldn't do it for some reason, do we have a backup trash plan?
I don't know who you do. If it's not only us, it's going to be everyone in the community because CNR services everyone. So I've seen in the past when there's a disaster, usually the trash is continuing to pick up, so there's to bring back some normalcy back in the community. So if they're not impacted by a disaster, they'll still pick up the trash if people put it out. Yes.
We do have a provision on our contract, too, that if they don't do their job, we can take over their trucks and do it.
I wouldn't try.
So Gina Nolani will be up there.
I'll put Nolani in one of those
trucks.
trucks. Yeah.
Caitlin, can you handle one of the trucks? Diana?
Other questions? Do we own our own SCADA system?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And a lot of them don't, And then they said we should consider hiring lobbyists, which I think we have some.
We do. Well, that's what CSDA is for us too, is our lobbyist.
Yeah.
They do all that for
I
us.
think those are the main questions I wrote down. I thought, if you have any additional.
No, you did really well, Cameron.
Actually, it was a great meeting.
I was
It
really
was-
happy with the way they handled it.
Yeah.
So, the moderator was quick to point out how good their district is quite often.
That's
Jim, I forgot something on ISTOC real quick that I think is important, if you don't mind. I think you know that Kelly Hubbard is leaving.
Yes,
Oh, she already gone?
We were out.
yeah.
She's
She went up to Long Beach.
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
She's going to be the emergency services director, I think, for all of Santa Barbara County.
Wow.
So it's a good move for her.
Lost
So they were
Vegas.
trying to decide who the representative with We Rock was going to be, and the guy from OCWD, I can't think of his name. They picked him.
We're getting emails and we so someone's
Yeah.
contacting us.
Yeah, they wanted Mark Monin from El Toro Water District wanted to be that, but they really need a staff person instead of unelected doing that. So they did. That was decided. Sandra made that decision.
You know, some of us went to the Orange County Recycling Center for the big event, and that was really good too. That was very worthwhile. A lot of people there, and we got
Back
to,
to one of those you see.
yeah, over at the center's office itself.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, I was gone.
Yeah, it was too.
Yeah. But I was just gonna say it was really
Yeah,
worthwhile.
it was.
Was CNR represented in that?
Yes,
Yes,
because
yes.
the center's named it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I gotta go.
Good luck.
Okay. Any old business? Oral communications and director comments. Anybody wanna call anybody a name or something? So we don't have a closed session, so we're gonna adjourn this meeting as I speak.